Hello, once again, everybody, and welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans talk about the best and worst of the horror genre. My name is Andy Conduit Turner. No Ben today, don't be sad, he's fine. But I am joined by a very, very special guest. Sharon Puchot Diaz, aka the Glampire Next Door, is an actress, model, and content creator from the UK and other parts as well. Sharon, so nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you, Andy. Finally.
Yeah, we've been chatting online for a while about you coming to join us. We needed to wait until the time was right to get just the perfect film. And having spoken to you properly for 10 minutes before we hit record here,
Yeah.
I think we made a good call. I think you're the perfect person to discuss this movie with us, which, if you haven't read the title, everybody, is The Love Witch.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get in to the main event, Sharon, obviously you got in touch with us, shared your passion for horror, what all the things you're doing with the UK horror community, the work that you've done in the past, and the work you're looking to do in the future. Don't spoil anything, but let's begin. Let's go right back in time, if we can. Where did your love of the genre begin before you even were working in it?
Well, I'm just gonna say it bluntly, I'm Mexican. So, as Guillermo del Toro said, being born Mexican, having the culture of Dia de los Muertos, that's like the first start. We're kind of brought up being very aware of death and being very aware of life and the meanings of it, and obviously the Catholicism of it, which is also very much influenced in the horror genre. So I guess from there, but also I was born in '97, so I grew up with a lot of the TV horror of the time of the '90s and the 2000s. So I grew up watching, in Mexico, I grew up watching like Courage the Cowardly Dog and um, Tales of the Crypt, and then obviously all the spooky Disney Halloween movies. So everything that was dedicated to the children's viewings, I watched. Scooby Doo, the animated Addams Family. So that was like my first intro. But I guess I would say, apart from all that, I was a very weird child.
Well,
I liked
snap.
a lot of macabre things. But I was also very girly, so it was quite confusing juxtaposition between the two. But I guess my gateway drug was Phantom of the Opera,
Hmm.
the movie from 2004 that kind of got me into horror as well as performing. And then Guillermo del Toro and Tim Burton. I think those three, I think it was Pan's Labyrinth when I was 10 and I watched it and I loved it. And Tim Burton's Corpse Bride and Nightmare Before Christmas. All those at the same time, around the same age, that completely changed my world. And then from there, I kind of got obsessed with it, got into watching the Universal classic horror monsters, vampires, werewolves, and then obviously in the teenage era, all these vampire TV series came out. So I was watching, of course, Twilight, all the book series. I was reading like the romance novels with werewolves and all these different things. So it was always present in my life. Yeah, but I think I owe it to kind of being that kind of opened that style for me.
And was it these universal monsters? I mean, you mentioned Phantom of the Opera, which is a prime example. Is this what sort of drew you into the fashion side of things as well? Because for people who can't see you now and who haven't seen your work on your Instagram and online and everything, I know you're hugely into vintage fashion, the sort of glamorous apparel that goes with sort of gothic horror in particular. You've done some incredible work in the area.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, Audrey Hepburn was like the main inspo. I was a teenager back then, but I really loved femme fatales when I was little. I think I remember, obviously, apart from being very exposed to like pop culture and everything, I was also into superheroes and the villains of the time. If you know Marvel, like the dark era of Marvel with Spider-Man and all this stuff. And I remember um, like watching Catwoman, and I think from there having that like love of femme fatale, and then when I got into the horror, which a lot of it's very time period, a lot of horror is very time period. You know, it's like the castles and the Gothic and the Victorian era. So they both kind of correlated together. And then when I was a teenager and watched Audrey Hepburn, that made more sense to me. And then I kind of got into fashion and realized, oh my God, all the movies I've been watching, it was there the whole time. I just didn't clock it until now. But I was always obsessed with the clothes of every single time period film, horror, non-horror that I saw. I just didn't know how to access it. And then I came to the UK and realized vintage shops, charity shops were a thing. And I was like, this is a gold mine.
Is this what drove your decision to make the movie? Like, right, I got to get over there where these clothes are weather appropriate.
It's amazing. You know, back home in Mexico growing up, there wasn't a thing as charity shops or vintage shops. Like if you had clothes and you didn't want anymore, you would, you know, you would give it away, you would give it to family members, or you would give it, you know, to people in need. So I wasn't sort of around markets growing up. That wasn't a thing. And it wasn't until I came here when I was 19 and I went to my first vintage shop, and I remember the smell of old and
Hmm.
like dust, and I was like, wow. My first thought was like, this is like a museum, but you can actually buy this stuff, which I thought was insane, an insane thought to think about. And it kind of became an addiction. I don't know. It kind of fulfilled my you know my wanting to be a part of these worlds and be a part of these characters and what they meant to me as a little girl, and especially in horror. I mean, a lot of it's female led. I mean, for me, Alien, Sigourney Weaver, like, come on, an amazing role model to look up to. So I just kind of wanted to show that strength through the clothes, and vintage was pretty big up there. And of course, I mean, people would say that the best horror of all time was the golden age of horror. And now it's funny that they're bringing it back. Like they're starting to use more natural ways of how they did horror films back then when everything was practical effects. And I think people are quite nostalgic about it, which I was like, well, that's what I'm here for. I'm kind of advocating for that vintage style to come back again.
And again, such a poignant movie for you to be talking about today, because when we'll get to it when we go into the movie itself. But I feel like of modern movies in particular, not, this isn't a movie with a heavy lean on practical creature effects or anything like that, but the craft and design that flows through this movie is immaculate. It is
Completely.
so on point.
It's all about details. I feel like back then, you know, and with this movie, like it has to be the every single scene is structurally thought out. Like the color palettes, the props, the set design, the lighting, like everything is intentional. And when they did horror films back then, everything was intentional. Everything was done on purpose. Whether there was smoke and the light going through the smoke, and then you had a prop here, and that prop was a different color than the other one. Like everything was so symbolic. And I love symbolism in horror films. Like I always ask, why is that color? Why is there a car in the corner there? Why is there smoke coming out here but not on this side? Like I question everything because I feel like everything needs to have a meaning.
And I think this is one of those movies that really does stand up to that level of scrutiny because everything in it is so deliberate and so like, perfectly pinpointly designed. I understand we've got some correspondence from one of our correspondents later who, from friend of the show, Emma Canley, I knew that I wanted certainly more because of the nature of the film, some additional female perspectives in here. So I did the smartest thing I can do as a man, call in someone who knows better than me. So I got Emma to send us her hot takes on the Love Witch as well. So I will
Okay.
I will
I'm
pipe
so
her in
intrigued.
shortly, and she has some great insights. And I'm sure Sharon, you might know some of this as well. Like I think the director was really hands-on with all the design of this film as well, right?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we will come to it, but first I want to pick into your love of Ellen Ripley of all people a little bit more, like a real horror icon for you as well. You mentioned the strength and the sort of determination of that character. But lest we forget as well, also, the whole, it's not my phrase from Alien, but Alien, the movie exists because it's about a load of men ignoring a much cleverer woman having the ideas. And she's a very smart
Yes.
character, like an engineer.
Yes. This is so true. There's actually an Alien documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it?
Ben has seen it back to back. I have not caught it.
Oh, I love it. It was like they made it so intentionally feminist that it blew my mind, and I was like, oh, I was like, no wonder I loved it so much. It like, it's that is true. That is true. It was made on purpose. The fact that Ellen from the beginning was like, we can't do this. This is dangerous. We have to follow protocol. And every single one on that ship was like, no, we're not doing that. We're bringing it, doing this, doing that. And everything went wrong. And I was like, she did say, don't do that. And no one else. And then the fact that, I mean, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, when Ash grabs the newspaper and puts it on her mouth, that's like an intentional,
Yeah, that's like
sexual
yeah,
assault, I want to say. And same with the face hugger. That's basically sexual assault on a man.
such an interesting
Like,
concept movie. If I can trade with you, another thing I would recommend you watch. There is another documentary, very different style of production called Alien on Stage. We caught it the other year, and it's about a bus company that made it their Christmas play and ended up playing it in London. It is incredible.
so funny that you tell me that because that popped up in my recommended somewhere and I saved it.
You must watch
I
it.
was
It's
like, I
very,
have
very
to
good.
watch this.
It's so much fun, and it's so nice seeing these people. It kind of really keeps that spark of hope alive in my heart that there's these people who don't have millions of dollars, they don't have Hollywood backing, they just are passionate about telling a story and doing a thing. And it can be seat of your pants, low budget, like completely amateur. But if you make something, I think, with your heart and you really put your back into these things, you can produce something incredible. And it's such a brilliant story of seeing that come to life. And none of these people are professional performers. They are making it happen because they just want to do a fun thing. And I think it speaks volumes when you see it. It's such a heartening, like little short film slash documentary to watch. And because it was a one-off tour, they do have like the back third of the documentary is just key scenes from their performance recorded when they were in London, and it is brilliant to see.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. But it is on my list
Yeah, the watch list is endless. Um,
forever till I die.
yeah, we'll never get this done. Like I'm not actively wishing for another pandemic, but it would do wonders for that watch list.
To be fair, I really, yeah, I miss the pandemic being locked. I'm such a homebody. I'm such a homebody. I really love just staying at home, curled up in my bed and like watching films and watching horror films. Like I could do that all day. If I could get paid to do that all day, I would, because I don't get tired of it. Some
Yeah.
people get like really, they're like, oh, I can't be at home. Like I have to go out. Oh, like I can't be in bed. Like I need to get out of bed. I need to change because I don't want to be in my pajamas. And I'm like, no, thank you. I actually enjoy being in bed, being in my pajamas, and watching movies all day.
The
All
dream.
week.
And
Yeah.
the good thing is about those particular times is you could go out if you wanted the outside, but you weren't allowed to go and see other people. So it was great. You could just hang out by
It's great
yourself.
because you could just look like a goblin and like just be, I always tell it to my friends, I can just be ugly in peace, you know? Without anyone asking me anything, anyone looking at me, any different energies. I'm just in my own, like in my blanket, just looking like a mummy and just very.
I think you've described it perfectly. I think you should probably, after we finish this conversation, launch a wellness lifestyle brand, which is like, the ultimate goal to be ugly in peace.
Being ugly in peace, yeah. I think I look like a decrepit zombie with a glam robe. Like right now I'm wearing a robe. I love robes, like the glamorous robes. I think these one have like these bat wings. But obviously without any makeup, just like
Yeah,
in a
cozy.
robe.
And this is a powerful fashion look. We're going into fashion, but this robe, you've got the kind of like Elvira sleeves on here. It's tremendous. Not your value, of course, but if people aren't seeing this, it's worth a look. This is some. I mean, I'm constantly jealous of the better and more exciting options of clothing and female presenting people have because as a guy, I go to the shops. You know what? Clothes are boring, especially
You
if
know
you're
what? I
fancy.
can tell you, if you want really cool pajamas, if I was a guy, I'd wear the one that Gomez wears. You can
Okay,
easily get that. Just get a smoking jacket, vintage or repro from like that with like the little padding, some comfortable trousers. Doesn't matter as long as they're the same color, and you got like a nice comfy outfit and you're still in style.
got my loungewear. That
Yeah, that's
sounds like a
loungewear. It's just
dream.
something that's comfortable and like it still looks put together and you feel like a bit more fabulous, even if it's by yourself.
Well, get ready for the pictures, everybody. I'm going to work on
I
this.
need it. Yeah.
Um, Sharon, obviously, you've already highlighted Ripley as a big influence and a big hero. Ben isn't here to fully drop it on you, so I'm not going to hold you to a full Mount Rush horror right now. But
But we miss Ben now. Like we'd
can
have a
you? I
full
know
blown
where is he? I can blame him on being mean to our guests. No, I'll take it on board. If you were to, I mean, you can have a completely different four if you want, but you can keep Ripley as your top one if you want. Any other horror icons who are just for you absolutely emblematic of the genre? Doesn't have
and
to be a character, could be a film, it could be an actor, could be a monster.
Guillermo del Toro as a
Mhm.
director, as his whole brain. Yes, he's a big influence on me. Um, in not only his ideas but the way he portrays women in his films. I think he does it with such a love to them, and I mean the fact that he did Frankenstein and said, Mary Shelley is a teenage girl, 18, and I connect with her. That already speaks volumes to me. But yeah, definitely Guillermo. Um, I have to say Dracula.
Yeah, why not?
Dracula for sure. He
Any
kind of
particular
started the whole
portrayal or just the character?
the character, but I do love Carmilla. I am a Carmilla girl. But that kind of was the gateway for me to be interested in the vampire genre in itself. I did a gothic course extending about the meaning of, vampire, vampirism, the origins, myths, everything. But I think Dracula from the start for me was a huge influence on my style and everything else. Oh God, there's so many that I could just like.
You're
To
allowed. I'll accept changes if you text me afterwards. That's also fine.
be fair, Ripley is pretty high for me. Yeah. Mm, to be fair, I really, really, really love Morticia Adams
Funnily enough,
and
the first
Vampira.
mention
Yeah,
of her
I
making it
know.
onto someone's four icons. Overdue.
Yeah, Morticia Adams and of course Vampira from the 1950s. I think those two women, God, Morticia since I was young. I mean, it's funny because growing up, my mom called me Wednesday as a kid. I kid you not. She tells this to everyone whenever we go somewhere spooky and I'm with friends, and she's like, "I used to call Sharon Wednesday when she was little, and now I know why." Like,
You
um,
know, she called it.
yeah. Well, I was a very macabre child. Like, I would say really strange things, just randomly. I let my intrusive thoughts win, basically. So I
Oh.
just said whatever was on my mind. Like when you're like, I don't know, when we were on the top of a hill, I as a kid I'd be like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to just watch someone jump off? And so my mom was like, okay, I have a strange child. But yeah, Morticia since I was little, um, and Vampira. So those.
Great choices. I will get the architects chiseling those into the horror hangout cliff face for you right now. Let's get to work. But before we do that and before we get on to the film of the week, let's cover a tiny, tiny little bit of horror news if we can. For those who have not been keeping up with current events, the Fright Fest lineup has been confirmed. Sharon, I don't know if you had time to check much out. I know before we recorded, you were talking about maybe making it along to a film or two. Is there anything that's caught your eye in the lineup?
Yes, I have been thinking about it, but it's more because I just want to meet everyone. That's my main interest, just meeting everyone and just picking everyone's brains. I find conversations with people and whatever community you're in is so interesting, and I could talk for hours on end. So I think that's my main interest. The movies as well, but I feel like everyone is a movie in itself, and I have so many stories I can pick from people, and that kind of fuels my inspiration and my creativity with what everyone has to say, to be fair.
I always have. I'm always mentally and physically spent at the end of Fright Fest weekend, but it is such an interesting time, such a brilliant community event as well. You're seeing new movies, you're coming out and you're talking to the people that made them, you're getting to hear from them up on stage, talking to you about it. I love, love, love a short film showcase as well. You know, you're going to sit there for the length of one movie and you're going to see 10 films, each of them by what could be one of your big genre creators in a few years' time. The amount of these folks who go on, who go from short film to feature film, is just so inspiring to see these people at the very infancy of their careers as well. So
Or
can't wait to get up there. Ben and I are going to record a full lineup preview episode as soon as our calendars fall into alignment and allow us to do so. But for me, just going in there and to keep it relevant to some of our previous guests as well. So things you're going to see at Fright Fest in London this year: Dead Reset, the cinematic cut. When we spoke to Stuart and Lindsay the other week, they mentioned they were playing at another festival, but they held short of saying the word debut. The detective in my mind wondered if there was something going on there. And now, with a lineup showing that they're going to be playing at Fright Fest, that is confirmed. Great to see it. You know those guys and their work, right, Sharon?
I love them. I love Dead Reset. I am a fan. Yeah, when it came out, it was so funny because my husband, he's an actor and um, also into horror as me. Well, I got him into horror. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
He's like,
so that's
"Oh,
on you.
babe, this game," because he works at CEX as a part-time job. So he got the game of Dead Reset, and he was like, "Oh, this sounds really interesting. Let's play it. Cool." Puts it on, and of course I let him play. There are some games that I play and some games that he plays, but
Mhm.
he played this one. It opened and I said the first thing was like, this is giving Alien in the best way possible. And we completely fell in love with it. Completely fell in love with it. And we watched, like, I watched, but he played the whole thing like back to back.
I think games like that are really great for sort of cooperative play as well, because even though you're not the one holding the controller, you can sort of experience it in the same way. You can
But you
input
know
on
what?
those choices.
Even I was helping him. Like when the decisions were being made, and of course they were timed. I said, "No, don't do that. Do that. Do this." And he would either listen to me or not listen to me. So in a way, we were sort of conspiring together what to decide. But I think also we were so jealous because I was like, I didn't even know this existed, that you could do video games now with actors in it. And I was like, God damn it. I was like, God,
This is another
we
career
have to do
angle.
something like this. Like, this is sick. And we knew that it was indie, but even the practical effects, like, it looked really cool. Regardless whether you could tell if it was fake or not, I loved it. I love when some films are truly into their practical effects. And even though it may not look super perfect, it's so artsy and believable enough that it completely, like, I love when things look raw and practical.
And that
I
sure
I
does.
I love it. It doesn't matter how, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. The fact that they just did it like stole my heart. But yeah, huge fan of those guys, and I actually followed the director and he followed me back. And I was like, oh my God. And I think I fangirl DM'd him saying, I love Dead Reset and I love everyone in the thing and hope to see you soon. And he was like, oh,
Oh, they
thanks.
are.
He probably thought I was a weirdo, but
No,
whenever
I don't think they are. They're a lovely pair, both
but this
Stuart
is,
and Lindsay.
yeah, completely, both of them, the sweetest. And fingers crossed. Hope to meet them. But I told it to my husband. I was like, guess who followed me on Instagram? Like, the guy did Dead Reset, and he was like, "That's sick." And I was like, "I know. I feel so cool."
Oh, well, looking forward to seeing the film cut of that. We're not going to go through the whole lineup, but other things I'm particularly excited for. Hungry, the Hungry Hippos take creature feature with a big hungry hippo eating some folks out in the wild. Looking forward to catching up with that. The director of Brilliant, possibly the best example of modern zombie movie making, Train to Busan, his new film Colony is playing on opening night at Fright Fest. I cannot wait. Colony looks incredible. Have you seen Train to Busan, Sharon?
I have not. You
Oh
are
my
getting me
goodness.
fresh, like fresh.
Escalate it up that watch list before Colony comes out. I have genuinely not
Just
seen
DM me the
anything.
whole thing, and
Yeah,
I'll probably just like schedule clack 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 every day.
check them off. Check them off. Yeah, so good. Can't wait to see Colony. Another film that's going to be showing is going to be a documentary. I know, Sharon, you probably know this by now because he's so famous for it. Ben loves a documentary, and he had a good old watch already of another documentary that's premiering, getting its UK and European premiere at Fright Fest in London, which is Rubberhead: The Life and Monsters of Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson is the creature effects artist who brought us iconic horror monsters, including Slimer in Ghostbusters. Um, a wild rock star of the genre. The documentary is talking about not only his creations but his life, his work in Hollywood, his
Mm.
absolutely wild lifestyle. Was married to Linnea Quigley for a period of time as well. So someone who's really at the cutting edge of horror in the 80s going on through the 90s. If you look previous on, just an episode or two back, depending on when our next bonus episode launches, you can hear Ben sitting down with the director of Rubberhead, Nick Taylor, to chat about the creation of the documentary. They have a lovely 20-25 minute chat about creating the documentary. I am even more pumped to see it from hearing him talk about his experience of creating the documentary, the conversations he had with Steve and loads of other folks in the run up to making it. It's looking like a really, really great lineup at Fright Fest. The last one I'm going to mention, of course, is going to be, maybe we had an inkling this was going to happen. I certainly hoped it was going to be a bit of confirmation I saw, but talking about UK indie horror, absolute darlings. We've also got The Death of Us, which is coming out. Annabella Rich, Chris Mills, two of our favorites over here. You heard me interview them about The Death of Us when they first went into production. They'd started crowdfunding. Guess what, everybody listening? You all did it. You got it over the line. Not only did they get funded to be made, they made it. It's ready, it's out, and it is going to be premiering its world premiere at Fright Fest this year as well. You're not going to go wrong with any of the films on screen, but those are my early excitement things that spiked my heart rate when I first looked through that list. And then I'm looking forward to diving in with Ben and doing a full preview very, very soon. Do I have anything else on the news? I think I covered the other bit with the Fright Fest. Speaking of Ben's interview, so then all that there is to do now is to turn first to you, Sharon, and ask, what have you been watching recently? Usually, Ben and I talk about the last 7 days. You've never been on the podcast before, so you can go a bit further back if you want.
Ah, wow. I've been really obsessed with the series From. Have you seen it?
No, tell me.
Do you guys watch series? Yeah.
We do, and we only very rarely do one formally on the show as an episode, but My Ben is pretty good with series. I can sometimes fall off them a little bit because it's too much commitment and I get distracted.
My husband's the same. Well, I was watching, I mean, I started like a week or two ago, but I'm currently finishing season 3. It's amazing.
You started it
It's
a
on
week
now.
ago and you finished in
It's
season 3. This is an addiction.
Yeah, so we only have until season 4, but I think they're gonna film it until season 5 and then it finishes. It's intense. Like it's very unique in its storytelling. It's on Now TV if you have Now TV in the UK.
We do. What's the setup? Tell me about how the premise.
How can I explain without spoiling anything? Well, it's basically a family. It starts with a family, and that's where we start the narration. Um, and can I say anything with like spoiling a bit of the opening?
Yes, you can spoil a bit of the opening. Warning, if you're super
Opening.
spoiler sensitive, give me 30 seconds. You're clear.
30 seconds. They're going on a road trip for whatever reason. They're driving in through a forest and there's a tree that is in the middle of the road. They get out and they're like, "What the heck? Why is there this big, massive tree blocking the road?" So they're like, "Oh, let's go back and go to the other road that was before this road." They go back and then they pass this town, and everyone's creepy, really weird. There's a funeral going on, and they're like, "Okay, what's going on?" And they said, "Oh, how do we get out of to go on the freeway, on the highway?" And they're like, "Oh, just keep going straight. Cool, keep going straight." And then it turns out that they're looping without realizing it.
Hmm.
So basically, they're stuck in this town. And this, and if you think there's one horror theme in this, you're wrong. There's every single horror style you can think of. There's supernatural, there's monsters, there's religious stuff, there's gore. So it's like every single genre, and every episode you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on because every episode something new happens, and everyone in that town is trying to explain what this town is. Like we don't know where it came from, how long it's been there, who was there before, who started it. So it's basically a place that screws up with your mind every day, and I think it feeds off people's fear. I feel.
Okay. I have, you've convinced me, Sharon. I've got my pen out. I've written down the name of
Yeah,
the series.
from FROM
I
from.
will seek that out as soon as I'm able to.
It's intense. I've only made my husband watch the first season. He's currently away with his parents on a holiday. But before that, we were watching the Dracula Hammer films.
Oh, very nice. Any
Yeah.
standout favorites?
Ah, the first one, the second one.
Hmm.
I mean, it was so it's so artsy. I love it. I love the really bright red blood. Like it looks like paint, but I
Oh yes,
love
like
it.
like Giallo blood, like properly
Yes,
like
but I
bright red.
love it. Like my husband was sitting next to me and he's like, "You know what? I actually really like the red." And I was like, "Yeah, because it doesn't look realistically like blood. It looks so artsy." And I was like, "Yeah, but I love it." And then the practical effects with the body like decomposing, I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." But yeah, currently watching like all of them, but I'm waiting till my husband comes back so he wants to watch them together. And then I guess I'm doing another rerun of The Addams Family from the 60s. I've seen
Oh
all the
wow.
episodes, but my husband bought the box set and I said, "Well, I might as well refresh my memory." So we're going episode by episode by episode. But I love The Addams Family. That's something you'll get me talking for hours. I'm a big Addams Family fan.
Such a such an interesting show in its time as well. I was going to say it would have been before you moved to the UK, Sharon, but because I am significantly older than you, it was before you were born. When I was a kid, um, Adam's Family used to be on like not like Saturday morning cartoons. It used to be on like just even on a weekday morning, like before the breakfast program started, like Channel 4. There'd be an episode every day. It's like a
Oh,
nice little comedy.
But it's so timeless. It's
Hmm.
it's not boring even for young viewers if they want to start getting into watching, because obviously the movies, people will always love the movies. But even if you're like, oh, you'll think that the TV show is boring, it's not. It's actually really funny. It's aged beautifully. It's a very timeless show in the way they've made the script for each
Hmm.
episode. And there's always something that'll get you chuckling. Like may not be the whole episode you're laughing, but there will be moments and um, little hits here and there that'll get you laughing. And I remember, like, I think I started watching it by myself, and my husband was there. He was on his Switch, and he just kept looking up to sort of see what was going on. And then after a few episodes, he was like, "Okay,
I'm
this is
just
really
watching
good."
this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, I'm watching, and I said, well, we should just watch the whole thing back to back. And that's when he got the box, and I was like, sure. I mean, I've
Yeah.
I've seen them all. The films. He is a big fan of the films. I think that's our biggest comfort film is Adam's Family Values.
Such a big movie for us growing up as well. So
Mm.
like, yeah, I was right in the window of it. And I think the
I'm so
driving of it,
lucky. Like if
yeah.
I don't know, people that were from the 90s, 80s, 70s, they got all the stuff. I'm still trying to collect like vintage memorabilia from the Addams Family, so like stuff from the 90s and then stuff from the 60s and 70s. I think I got the Addams Family book. There was a novel made after the series came out in 64, and it's a unique separate story, but still the Adams Family from the 60s TV show. So I have that little book. It's like a little yellow book, and it has writings in it from the 60s. So I'm trying to read through that as well.
Awesome. Amazing. I mean, I'm not here to trigger, tribalism just after a World Cup has wrapped up here, but of a similar era, of a similar ilk, what are your feelings on the Munsters?
I like the Munsters.
Yeah.
I do. Um, you know what? I I would say the Addams Family is better, but to be fair, it's all about nostalgia. I feel
Hmm.
like some people grew up with the Munsters and some people grew up with the Addams Family. So um, it's very much dependent on what you saw as a kid. So I can't really attack anyone on either side because then you'll sort of have the debate of what's better, the 60s TV show or the 90s movies. And then
Hmm.
people will compare that and think that the movies are superior. Um, so I do like it. I didn't identify with it. I think that's a difference as well as what people identify with or what they connect with most. And same with horror. I mean, some people connect to the older films and some people connect with the newer films. I like it, but I'm
You
Adam's Family.
if
Like,
you had to choose, that's what you're gonna go for. I think
yeah,
it's
I just think
interesting.
they're the OG, and nothing will ever top it.
Good choices. I have seen just a couple of things this week, and then someone else has seen something for me, but I will come to that just shortly. I've seen a couple of things that I'm going to share with you. One, the good folks at Chroma are about to release. By the time you're hearing this, it's already out on a number of digital platforms, all of your usual ones, all of your YouTubes, all of your Amazon Primes, all those other pieces. But it's called Paranormal Investigations. It is coming out from the good folks at Chroma, and it is recovered footage from a paranormal reality show's missing season premiere. Reveals the night of a notorious southern hell house and the day that it devoured the entire cast and crew on camera. It is an independent, mostly found footage film because it is presented as the final unedited recording of this crew before they, no spoilers here, it's in the intro, went missing on the night of their final shoot. It is written and directed by Raymond Wallace. Um, and it talks about all of the things that happen there are presented. It's got a lot of the grave encounters about it.
I was about to say that. I was waiting till you finished, but I said this
Mhm.
reminds me of Grave Encounters. I
Yeah,
love Grave Encounters.
big grave encounters energy. It is out as of the 24th of July. Prime Video, Apple TV, Fandango at home, depending on which platform is your choice. Don't want to dismiss it as entirely having grave encounters energy, although a good time for it as it's just announced part three in that series with Justin Long, everyone's favorite Scream Queen. Um, but yeah, it has this energy about it. It has some of the classic tropes that you get from a found footage movie, the unguarded moments where the people putting this show together probably actually don't get on that well. There's interpersonal dramas going on. There's some people who've done some controversial things. They're just trying to get through this job. And what I love, and I've seen it some of the best found footage films, is when you get that juxtaposition between when how the people are acting when the cameras are meant to be rolling and they expect them to be rolling versus when they're just trying to interact with each other. Um, Much like lots of the best of the found footage genre, this is not a film that's going to sell you on its effects budget or its absolute perfect visual fidelity or the star power of the actors you've seen before. It is meant to be like feeling an authentic experience, and it does have, to its credit, a great YouTube video style, which is the intention of the program, right? It's about a production for an online community who are developing like an indie made like a YouTube channel style video presented in this film. There are some cool in camera effects. I think there's some really good use of almost a sensory overwhelming moment. They part of the I guess some of the pretense of the show is that they've developed some new software to help sort of pseudo edit their footage together. A smart part
Mhm.
of their equipment that is meant to help them cut between multiple cameras they've set up, sort of
Yeah.
automatically, so you can, within the premise of the story, say, well, how did you choose which angle to look at? But some of the most effective moments of the film for me is actually when you almost feel like you're a security guard, where there are things happening in several places at once, and the film just quite smartly, in my opinion, presents you like a grid of several cameras all set up at once, and you can. I found myself as a viewer watching this little section of the screen where all the actors are doing, and then looking to see if I can see anything moving in the in all these other sections that are happening. Will it completely break the mold and be the like a completely unique found footage situation? Maybe not, but I did find myself really locking in and watching along with that one. It's available for you to watch right now, everybody, by the time you're hearing this. So that was a little bit of fun. The other side of things. Now, Sharon, how are you? Apparently, we don't call it the Pooniverse anymore. We call it the Twisted Childhood universe. Have you engaged with any of these public domain characters now in horror senses, like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, or Bambi's Revenge, or the Peter Pan movie? Have you caught any of these?
I haven't seen them. They do appear on my list when I go through movies. I think I know one person who was involved, like behind the scenes of Winnie Pooh, the Pooh, Love and Honey.
Blood and Honey, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say. I mean, yeah, I guess Winnie the Pooh. No, I haven't, to be fair, just because I'm like, I feel like, oh, like it's gonna like ruin it for
I was
me.
going to say, do you want to keep these childhood characters beloved and sacred and nice?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. But with Winnie the Pooh, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of these. What I will absolutely applaud every time is the juggernaut of interest they've been able to generate in these kind of movies. This capturing of childhood things. And for anyone who listens, you know I'm never sad to see a corporation lose control of something. Good on them.
I
Take
mean,
us to
it's
public domain.
definitely fun and interesting, and I think it's a good, as long as it's there for like fun and entertainment, which a lot of horror films, like, you don't have to take yourself too seriously if you don't need to. I'm sure there'll be a cult following of that genre. So, I mean, it's not for me, just because I'm different. I'm like I prefer different kinds of horror. But, maybe one day when I'm like really drunk, I'll be like, you know what? Why the hell not?
Why
Let's
not?
put Blood and Honey for the fun of it. And who knows? I might actually be like, you know what? This is really fun when I'm drunk and
Well, maybe this one will get you to it. So that universe continues before they have their kind of Avengers style crossover, which we are led to believe is on its way. Monsters United. We have the latest foray coming very shortly from the Twisted Childhood universe folks. They're bringing you next Pinocchio Unstrung, which, we talk about these being sort of independently budgeted. These aren't reliant on star power. I'll give you a quick guess, Sharon, then I'll reveal to everyone. Who do you think might voice Jiminy Cricket of all people in this Pinocchio reimagining?
Oh my God.
What would be a corruption of the beautiful, cheery conscience of an artificial boy? Who would you cast if you really want to cast that into the shade?
Oh my God. I mean, I would really love the actor who voices Pinocchio in Shrek. But
We don't go quite that far, but
voice.
we do. So instead of Jiminy Cricket, Jiminy Cricket's cheery little voice, we get Robert England, Freddy Krueger himself, providing the voice of this wooden boy's conscience.
Oh my God. You know what?
You're on board.
I'm not against it.
Well,
It's something that I think I'll have to see and then but I mean he's really good with voices.
yeah, he's
So
good.
I'm kind of like, damn, he could prove us wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Could prove us
I've
wrong.
got I've got an opinion right here. There was a press screening of Pinocchio Unstrung today, all the way down in London though, which is a little bit far from me. Plus, I got a job to do, but you'll never guess who had a day off and lives significantly closer to London than I do. My sister, Sally May is her name, and she went along to see Pinocchio Unstrung on Hangout's behalf, and she has sent me a little review. I did not put the pressure on her to record a voice note. She's not quite as comfortable of chatting on endlessly as I am, but she did write me a review, which I will read to you all. You directly, Sharon, but then everyone else listening at home. Now, I won't read the first bit. Here's something you could read out. Pinocchio Unstrung genuinely felt like a journey through childhood nostalgia. Classic horror references and a surprisingly emotional story about innocence, corruption, belonging, and identity. I absolutely loved it. It's a savage, imaginative, unexpectedly heartfelt, and I'd agree, perhaps maybe the most character driven entry of this twisted childhood universe I've seen so far. In brackets, she adds that she has not seen the Peter Pan one yet. Um, it was written and directed by Reese Frake Waterfield as officially the fifth installment of the TCU. It has a low budget, but she says it punches above its weight. It has good practical effects and animatronics, and it has clever horror nods made by people who clearly love the genre. It's scrappy, has a big personality that she really enjoyed. She really liked the animatronics and the puppet. And it said that Pinocchio felt like very real and unsettling when you saw him on screen. Cast us some familiar faces. Robert England as the cricket, one of our childhood favorites, mine included, when she's talking about there. Richard Brake playing Geppetto, she says very well, and a feature length debut from a young actor, Cameron Bell, playing James. The film opens with a dark, atmospheric shadow puppetry sequence, which is, I think, sort of thematic of these these twisted childhood pictures. Anyway, they always open with like these animated segments. They immediately tell you that you're talking about a twisted fairy tale and not a children's story. Early, we see the Uncle Geppetto making this puppet has a slightly offbeat sort of series of unfortunate events vibe. Contrast between innocence and unease sets the tone perfectly from there. So she won't go into any further spoilers, but overall, it's a gory, funny, emotional, surprisingly emotional, and packed with personality. Pinocchio, despite being a wrong'un in this, manages to be somewhat adorable, terrifying, and heartbreaking all at once. Easily her favorite TCU movie so far. Shout out to my sister. Thank you, Sally, for doing that for us. London's a long way for me, so I appreciate you going and actually writing a very thoughtful review for me on the train home. Thank you so much.
That was such a nice review. That kind of convinced me to want to watch it now.
There you go. Peace to you, producers. You have sold one more ticket because of my sister's intervention. Send her a goodie bag or something,
Be
please.
writing, God.
It was really nice actually that this came up because just before we'd got the details from the folks that run the press release for this, my
Yeah.
sister actually had texted me a couple of weeks earlier. It's mostly what we talk about. We live in opposite sides of the country. We have very busy work lives, so we don't get to chat as much as we once did. We live about 500 miles apart from each other. And she texted me about it and said, "Oh, have you seen this movie? I'm really looking forward to it." So it kind of made me feel like I could do a nice thing that when we got offered this press screening that I couldn't make it to, that I can send her along to enjoy it. And this isn't her present. Sort something else out for that, but it is her birthday this week as well. So happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yay! And that is what I have watched this week, apart from the film of the week. So here we are. It's time for the main event, Sharon. Are you ready?
I hope I'm ready, but yes.
Hope you're ready. Right, let me get
I'm
this
ready.
up here. Let me give you the big right up here. Make sure I've got the right one. So, The Love Witch, a 2026 movie directed by Anna Biller. She loved men to death. A modern day witch uses spells and magic to get men to fall in love with her with deadly consequences. IMDb, a 6.3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, 95% critic score, 61% audience score. Letterbox, 3.5 out of 5. And here are some choice reviews. India says, Pretty Women Killing Men is my favorite genre of film, 3.5 stars. Narwhal says, This is how I imagine Lana Del Rey living her life, 4 stars. Fork Patone says, If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't, 5 stars. And Haley says, For a love witch, she has terrible taste in men, 2.5 stars. Sharon, what do you make of those? What do you make of those choice reviews there? Things you agree with, things that you're
I love
adamantly
it. I was
against?
gonna say it's a 2016 film.
2016 film. I can't read properly. It's been a long day.
2016, yeah, 10 years ago. Gosh, I love those reviews. That's actually perfect to the T.
Yeah, I think a lot of the takes in there as well. We talked about this before we went live, Sharon. I won't force
Yeah.
you to have the dead air while I try and get my phone to play the voice note through. I'll send it to you separately so you can think about it. But I wasn't going to come here and talk about a film. Obviously, I have your fine company to go through it, but I wanted to make sure that as such a female and feminist written movie from a lot of interpretations at very least, it wasn't just a very heavily male dominated take on analysis here. So I did get friend of the show Emma Cownley to send some of her hot takes, or particularly as it's about witchcraft and an area that we know, folks who know and love Emma around here. Produced of Earworm magazine, new issue out very soon. I believe it's just gone to the printers at time of recording. Emma's an expert in this, so I couldn't not get her hot takes in this. I will include them right now, Ben.
Hello, it's friend of the show Emma Cownley here. Um, I've been asked to give my hot takes on The Love Witch, so hold on to your butts because I've got one humdinger for you. But first, I just want to start out with a little bit of love for the film because that campy vibe and DIY aesthetic, I'm really into it. I love that Annabella makes all the costumes and sources all the props. She makes the props. I think she also does the hair and makeup. And it's just really gratifying as an audience member because you know that you're seeing the actual vision that she had for the film in its complete entirety. It hasn't had to go through other people or be kind of diluted or filtered. I know that's quite an unkind way to think about people in costume departments or like prop departments or whatever, but like effectively the director's vision is going through other people, and it's really neat to just see it pure, distilled like that. I really enjoy it. But my hot take really is around the feminist angle of the film, and I'm fairly sure that Annabella hadn't intended for it to come off like this whatsoever, but that's not stopped me from seeing it this way. And it's that it really subverts the archetype of the witch in horror. So historically, witches are the anti-woman. You know, they are old and haggard, where women are supposed to be beautiful and young. They eat children and sacrifice babies instead of giving birth to them. They actively seek to harm men. They've got unnatural and clandestine knowledge from, other realms. They have more power than is comfortable in a patriarchal society. And that's why we get all of these stories through history of the kind of witch and her eventually being punished. And it kind of reinforces this patriarchal belief that women aren't supposed to have that power. They're supposed to conform to gender roles, give birth, be pleasing to look at, be young, be subservient to men, and all this bullshit, right? So historically, the archetype of the witch is a woman gone wrong. But here we have Elaine, who is everything the patriarchy would want a woman to be. She is young, she's beautiful, she really wants to be a partner. She wants to be a fucking stay-at-home trad wife. She yearns for it with every fibre of her being. And so to see her using witchcraft to effectively entrap men in their own vision of desire that then turns horribly sour on them. It's basically like careful what you wish for type of a vibe. Do you know what I mean? From the male perspective. And I find that so interesting that she can be this beautiful, sweet vision who is terribly corrupted and rotten underneath in the purity of her yearning, if you know what I mean. I find that very, very interesting of how it's subverted the vision of the witch and the vision of femininity and beauty and stuff. But I do genuinely think this is supposed to be a film about femininity, beauty, love, in its sincerity. But for me, in the way I watch it, I'm like, yeah, gal, fucking get on with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a good for her narrative from where I'm sitting. So yeah, I would be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
There we go. Sharon, for the purposes of this, you haven't heard this. I will send you the take, but what Emma had to say was a lot talking about. We talked about the design, we talked about the feminist message and how it really subverted the popular pop culture iconography of a witch, an unattractive hag who, desperately wants to hurt men or hurt other people or is dangerous to children. And actually she's quite the opposite of this. So Emma had some really cool takes, but don't let me or Emma put words in your mouth. Tell me what attracted you to this movie, because this was your choice that we would cover, right?
Yes, I mean, so many choices, but I thought this covered me perfectly, like horror and vintage genre together. Sorry, what was the question?
What has attracted you to this movie? What's your history with this movie, shall we say?
I was recommended it by a friend. This was years ago. And said, I think this might be something you might like. And I was like, oh, okay. So I rented it and it sold me in the first 5 minutes. I thought it was a period film. And the more I watched it, the more I was like, okay, no, this isn't, because this was made in 2016. And I was like, this is amazing. I think what I really liked was the storyline and the visuals. I'm a big visual kind of girl. Like, I could watch a film back to back and there doesn't have to be any lines, but if there's symbolism throughout a film, that will captivate me pretty well. Because I feel like there's a saying that says there can be said a lot without saying anything. And I think a lot of the scenes in Love Witch are just shots of either her painting or her vanity or her getting dressed or her painting or her walking, and everything means something. And it's also really pleasing to look at. I love aesthetically heavy films. that have a certain energy and a certain vibe. And yeah, that was like the first thing that grabbed me was the story and the visuals. That was the first thing.
Yeah, I felt very similar when I first watched this. It had been in my watch list for a while, having seen it on, lists of films that you should watch, or just like horror films that had bubbled to the top and they'd come across. And it wasn't until I went to rent the movie or to pick it up for the first time that I realized it was a 2016 movie. Um, it has such an authentic feel, and I think we talked about this before we went live. It's not disguised. There are mobile phones in it, there are computers in it, but they are so heavily like backgrounded, and it's the color grading and the fashion and the lighting of it that just makes it feel so authentically like one of these folk horror movies of the time, but really psychedelia era, sort of 60s, early 70s kind of movies that I genuinely, until the day I went and picked it up and saw that, the year in brackets afterwards, I was like, oh, today I'm watching a classic movie from 40 years ago. I say 40 years ago because I stopped counting time forward in the year 2000 from 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is yeah, and I know Emma mentioned it, people will have heard, but we talked about it as well. The fact that Annabella had such a like heavy role in the production and the creation of it, from looking at the thing here, it's Anna's production company. She is responsible for direction, writing, production, editing, music, even. She has such a hand in the entire creative process here that you're really seeing this one artist's vision very heavily undiluted on screen, right?
Yeah. And done from a completely like female gaze point of view. I feel like, if this was mainly shown to a male audience, it would look so different. And she was kind of catering to the female pleasure of watching a film. That's why it's so fashion heavy. Because it's Anna's fantasy in her head. And I watched a few interviews of her talking about the film, and she was heavily focused on it being like representing that femininity. It was also very personal to her, the story, and kind of like women, and the fact that we perform. And if you see the film, Elaine performs a lot of the time for love, and that's her whole justification of her character, is that I need to do this and do that and look beautiful, and also give men sex and like all these things so that I can have love, because love is her goal, not specifically for anything else. But she sort of gives herself all these justifications that in order of her to do all of this, she will finally have love. And Anna said it so well. She's like, that's the thing that I guess makes you powerful in a way, but it's also reversed. It can also pretty much destroy you.
Yeah.
And that control is very women coded, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, there's so much I want to unpick with this as well. And I'm glad there's the two of us and we have a mixed group to discuss it there. This is definitely something that Ben and I could have not tackled by ourselves. I don't think we have the like. I could have read 100 books before I came along, and I don't think I'm going to have the authentic experience that that yourself and Emma's notes could help us bring to life here. But there are so many bits in the story I'd love to. I can't wait because we're going to do it in a minute. Chat about what the psychology of that is, and maybe what we perceive the meanings of her behaviors and what her experience is and what the other characters are experiencing. But before we dive into a full spoilers plot, by the way, everyone, if you haven't seen this, it's not a movie from the 60s, it's quite recent. It's still 10 years old, but we're going to fully spoil it. So if you are sensitive to spoilers, get and watch it now before you come and join us again. But if you're not worried about spoilers, or if it's something that you might take a while to watch, don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to go blow by blow through this. But before we get into the plot, let's talk for a minute, if we can, about Samantha Robinson, our lead as Elaine. Someone who's not, she has been in other films, but never in such a prominent role as as she as we see in this particular movie, and it really surprises me we haven't seen her more because she's tremendous in this.
She is. Completely agree. I think this film kind of made her a star. I think it's just because this film I feel is so obscure.
Mm-hmm.
Only the people that know it know about it, and I think it didn't get such a wide release. But I feel like if it did, I feel like she should be bigger.
Yeah, she should be absolutely huge. At several points in the film, now don't want to be don't want to be cast myself into the shade here. I feel like she could actually have magic powers because every time she's on screen, maybe it's a me problem, Sharon, because maybe it works on me as a guy, but you cannot take your eyes off her when she's on screen.
You know what? She has such a vintage face, and the makeup that was done on her makes her look so alluring.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they did, like her eyes specifically, which is what you focus on, is so like enchanting to look at. And she just has like a very unique face. I think it's one of those faces that you sort of see in old films. It's kind of like they like went back in time, picked her up and then brought her back, kind of like that. Like she gives like she's from a different time period.
Yeah, she is not one of those victims of the unfortunate modern condition. She does not have iPhone face. She
Does not 100% unique.
absolutely can look like someone who existed in a past era, but such a, you know, partially, as you say, it is the additional things they do with her, the work they do on the makeup on her eyes. I don't have the exact review to quote it, but one of the other reviews I saw on Letterboxd, someone said like her eyes and her eye makeup deserve their own Oscar for this film.
Yeah.
Um, she is one of these characters, and you sometimes encounter them in life, and it reminds me of those other things that you see online when people talk about Sabrina Carpenter, and they say, she's like, if she lived in times gone past, people would have her carved onto the head of ships, and they would go off to wars like Helen of Troy because someone was so striking. And this is true of whenever you see Samantha Robinson on screen as Elaine as well. It's like sometimes when you just see something wondrous in passing and you could have no interaction with them at all, but say like you look like you look you should be famous, or like I have seen something magical. For me as a man over 40, it's like when I see a fun bird flying around and think, oh, that's a sweet little bird. But yeah, it is stunning. You cannot like, and the film is shot so focused on her. It is, every shot is designed to perfection.
100%.
Yeah. And her performance is quite nuanced. It's not one note. And as I want to pick up on what you said, it's quite a, she herself, the actress, Samantha Robinson, is doing a performance, but Elaine is performing herself. We see her get to be herself when she's alone on occasions, but then she has several different performances that she puts on for other people as well. Yeah.
100%. It's the sort of layers that I feel like a lot of women have, like the sort of image that you're faced, and the I guess the layers you have to pick out of yourself in order to get a goal in society. I feel like you sort of have to, I don't want to say like pick yourself apart, but have all these parts for yourself when you're out in the world. Like, I mean, I can tell you, like, as a woman, as an actress, I mean, you, even if you're going for a job, you have to put on makeup and do your hair, or else if you're not, they're gonna be like, you look tired. Like, you look, are you okay? Are you sick? So we're sort of like, if we don't do our makeup and don't do our hair and we don't look presentable, that's like the minimum we have to do as a presentable in order to be, I guess, welcomed. And then that can go on so many other layers. And with Elaine, it's, you know, there's a scene in like halfway in the film when, you know, spoiler alert, the first guy she like wants to enchant dies. And there's a scene where she's in the vanity and she's like putting cream on her body and like, you know, sort of trying to look more appeasing. The voice of her ex-husband is like, oh, like, you look so fat, like you should be like, you should lose weight. And then like all these little
Like,
comments,
have you even brushed your hair? And yeah,
brush your hair, yeah, like oh, like you should cook and clean, like I found a hot dog on this table under the sofa, and like while she's literally trying to perfect herself in front of the mirror. And then she uses all of that, and then once she's finished, she's like fantasizing, like having like a sexual fantasy through that, because again, it's all about control. So I don't know if I explained it well. I could probably go more into depth with it, but that's kind of like my main thing when it comes to all the details that are focused, because everything, it looks like a fantasy, like a dream. It looks dreamlike. It doesn't look real. It might not feel real because the fact that they're in the tea room, like the Victorian tea room, and everything looks delicate and beautiful and feminine, like very heaven-like. And she's like wearing this pink hat, and everything looks so nice to look at. Like you're kind of like, oh, I wanna be in this fantasy, in this dream, in this world with them. So they're kind of selling it to you already without you even
and she kind
knowing.
of talks about that as well, right? Elaine even says, "Oh, but at heart, don't we all just want to be taken off and go to like to live in that fantasy?" She talks about it as like a fairy story, I think,
Yeah,
in
like
that
being
scene.
a little girl and being a princess and being rescued by the knight in shining armor, and how we all as girls kind of fantasize and dream with that, and it's true. When we're little, it's true.
I mean, the description we just had there and that trauma and how she does, you know, try to put on this performance and make herself beautiful. Even you, Sharon, talking about being an actress, you know what she needs? To be able to be ugly in peace. Like, the
Exactly.
lifestyle brand.
Yeah, gremlin. This is
Yeah.
why I love horror, you know? This is why I love horror, because it's all meaning. It's all hidden symbolism about who we are as human beings. Like I feel like, you know, when people say they don't like horror, they're like, "Oh, I hate horror. It's awful." Like my family, I'm the only one in my family that loves horror on both sides of my family. The only weirdo. And I said, "It's just you're not understanding the like it's all
Yeah.
it's all symbolic about who we are inside, like our internal demons. It's just shown in a different way. It's shown through a creature, it's shown through a zombie, it's shown through a ghost, through a house itself, like a castle." And I say, you know, you don't think of it as like everyone's suffering. Think of it as a more analytical point of view of who we are. And
You
then
don't
you'll
like horror, you just haven't found the right one yet.
yeah, that's what I say. When people think horror, they probably just think slasher. That's all what I always hear from everyone is like, "Oh, I don't like horror." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Oh, because the guy is always running and killing people." And I'm like, "No, that's just one genre. There's so many other ones. You know, take your pick."
Yeah, give me a
But
ghost story, give me some psychological, like there's so much.
one like a ghost of a dream in a dream in a dream, and then everything's real, but it's actually not real. It was all in your head, like stuff that's like, whoa, like going way further into the existential uh part of us, you know?
You've just got to find the one that's right for you. So we talked about this trauma. Maybe we'll revisit this here. So that our plot begins where recently widowed, we don't find that out till a little bit later. Elaine, our titular love witch, is moving home. She's starting a new life in a new town after her husband, it's very quickly revealed. Now, overtly, she says, "My husband left me," but we see as the audience a flashback that shows him having a lovely sip of a drink and then falling down dead with that beautiful, very red blood all over the place. So he has been killed. We're not overtly said whether she killed him with a poison or whether he just drank something that was poison and died. But he is dead. His old is Jerry Jer. Yeah, so he's gone. We have a quick interaction with a policeman, and then actually before we unpicked a bit of the trauma and this past relationship they had, which is so influential to lots of the things Elaine goes on to do. And she mentions that she was reborn through witchcraft and a group she has found, and we'll look at them a little bit later. But the first character she really meets, aside from an interaction with a policeman, is neighbor and interior designer Trish. What do you make of Trish in this movie? Because they have quite an interesting relationship.
I love Trish.
I think
as
Trish is
as
hard
a
done by.
as a woman and as a character, I mean, she's so sweet, and I think she's the kind of woman that's opposite of Elaine. And the fact that, you know, even if you see the costume choices, I feel like a lot of people don't notice, but whenever I see women wearing a suit, pantsuit, it kind of shows, you know, that she's that sort of independence of herself, being comfortable in her skin, the fact that she's wearing very soft makeup, and she's wearing like this gorgeous pink, like very like a blush light pink suit, trousers, and like a waistcoat with like a lovely ivory blouse, and it's so soft, but yet it's so dominant because it's trousers and a waistcoat, and it's so done so like little. Whereas Elaine, she's wearing a dress, like flowy skirts, and a bit more structured, a bit more sexy. And Elaine wears very soft tones as well. And
Yeah.
whereas it's not, sorry, Elaine, Trish wears soft tones, and then Elaine wears really strong, bold colors.
Bright colors there. And
Yeah.
I found it really interesting, the sort of juxtaposition between the two, because in essence, both of them have different flavors of a similar career, right? So Elaine is an artist. I know she sells like crafts to a local store. We see that in a quick interaction as well. But she is a creative artist. Whereas Trish is still a creative person, is an interior designer, but her art is more, don't know how to best describe it. It's more contained, it's more functional, it's more what you might think of as a traditional business model. You know, you're not selling paintings because you want to sell paintings and art for art's sake. You are using your design and creative skills to fulfill, you know, what people might recognize as a more traditional job role, you know, in a formal sort of corporate structure kind of way. And we see that Trish also goes off to a business conference, right? That a little bit later on, which unfortunately does leave Richard exposed to, you know, to some machinations of of Elaine as well. And as we go through this film, like we'll go a little bit out of sequence here as well. Obviously, Trish, it appears, certainly from my watching of this film, seems very welcoming of Elaine. They have slightly different views on some things, but she meets her as a friend and she trusts her and she cares about her. Now, ultimately, they will be posed against each other when the relationship with Trish's husband is brought into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested what your take on this is before I say something I'm unqualified to mention. Did you take any messages from this as how sort of society pits women against one another?
100%. It's one of those things I always thought of, I guess my whole life. I was like, I don't know why they're putting, I mean, I know why now, but as a girl, I was like, you know, as a girl, when I'm growing up, I felt like the only way I could ever move on in the world successfully, whatever my craft was, whatever I chose to do, um, I'm going to say it bluntly, if men liked me, then I would have more opportunity. And that's kind of the way I was brought up with the things I was exposed to, family and society. And and then the extension of that was that there's not enough room for all of us to succeed together. So there was not only men have to like you. So again, comes a performative side of Elaine. Men have to like you, or else you won't get what you want, whatever that is. And then extending that, the exclusivity. It's throughout media, and I'm guessing throughout society in many different cultures. It's like, there's not enough room for all of us, So then comes the competition. And it's also the fact that I believe that it's a sort of distraction, because I feel like if the patriarchy, as they talk about in the film, it's basically designed to distract women, because if we all actually, instead of pining against each other, and actually we're helping each other and we're all friends and we all get along, we'd all probably have more power and be focused on the more important things than caring if I'm wearing the right eyeliner or not, or why does she look better than me? And so it's all wasted energy. And so it's like we're trying to focus our energy on the stuff that technically really doesn't matter, instead of focusing on bigger stuff. So I think when I read a book about the origins of the patriarchy and feminism, it was such a power dynamic on we'll keep all the women focused on all these things, because if we keep them distracted, better for us. And that's kind of how it made sense to me, and kind of how I see it. And even to this day, because I'm a big girls girl, I will forever hype up all the women. Doesn't matter. I don't feel envious of any women. I feel like we all have enough room to succeed and to shine. But I do get some women that will, against me when I've done nothing, and I'm like, why? What am I doing that is so threatening to you? And a lot of it has to do with the attention and the focus of the people that we're surrounded, or at least for me in the vintage scene and as a content creator. There's so many different content creators, right? And we all do different things, but a lot of us are sort of in similar groups. And so I'll have some of the girls that I meet, and they won't be friendly to me, they won't be as welcoming, they only care about you if you've done something pretty big or something that could interest them and kind of get them bigger. Not always. The majority of women I've met and who I have friends with are amazing, but it's that sort of invisible competition that they make us believe exists.
Yeah, and sometimes creates when it could be completely one-sided to begin with. But I find this is probably this dynamic between Elaine and Trish is almost the greatest tragedy of the film, because they could be really good friends, they could be on it, but it becomes, following the tragedy of what happens later on, first that Elaine feels compelled, and obviously at the time the attention that she is seeking in her search for love that she needs following her previous relationships drives her to kind of take advantage of Richard's weakness at the expense of her friend, at the expense of a friend and someone who has been welcoming to her. And then the tragedy that follows that puts them, as it becomes known, puts them against each other, and it builds that jealousy from that moment, where we see a slightly different flavor of trauma and damage happen to Trish than that Elaine was suffering in the first case. And she is ultimately, she's an interesting sort of protagonist to follow, because in this sense, she has done, from Trish's perspective, she has done something villainous. She is not alone. Richard is a part of it as well, but has done something which, in Trish's eyes, has made her from a friend into someone who has betrayed her and is her enemy at that point. It's such an interesting dynamic that I probably can't fully make sense of here, but
it's all about what the character and we justify our actions for. So what we value more to get out of. Like I'm usually a really terrible example, but people will always ask, well, why do people kill? Like, why is that? Like with serial killers, like why do do this and do that? And I said because somehow they will make up an excuse or an internal justification of why what they're doing is either right or so us as human beings will sort of trick ourselves into saying this is worth more than whatever I'm
Than what
stepping.
you already had. Yeah.
Of course, because and you see it in the scene when she's in the tea room with I'm thinking Elaine and oh God, my mind. Trish.
Yeah.
When they're talking in the tea room and she says, men are like children. You
Easy to please.
easy to please. You have to. So she sort of, I don't want to say like sees men less than, but I think maybe she thought that what she was doing wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
She was doing it for her own personal gain, but I don't think she thought that it would probably have done as much damage to Trish as it did. Probably because to her, men are like just the means to an end of what she needs. And like for a lot of, for a lot of women, it's like, okay, one less guy in the world, who cares? And I think that's kind of what Elaine was thinking. I don't think she didn't think of the extreme severity of it. And if you also see, she didn't expect the spell to not work. That's also another thing. Like her intention was to have them fall in love with her and her to finally have love.
The thing
So I
that
don't
she
think
has
she
not
intentionally
had.
tried to kill them. I think the spells went wrong because it is warned in the film by the other, the witch and the other guy that like, be careful with love spells, Elaine.
Because they can go wrong.
They
Yeah.
can go wrong.
I never think with the exception of one involving a knife later on, I wasn't convinced watching the film that any of the deaths that occur in the film are through the deliberate act where you're trying to kill someone and that was the plan. I think for me, in some cases, it just felt incidental to what was happening in that situation. Just to finish off, Richard, before we talk about the thing that canonically happens before in the chronology of the film. I think there's, to a degree, there is this craving for the love and these connections that Elaine has
Yeah.
as part of the film. But I think with some of these things, particularly with the Richard one, it's a little bit like you ask Edmund Hillary why he climbed Mount Everest, and the answer is because it's there. Like there is, I think, such a thing of conquest, and certainly, something we certainly feel when we're younger. Like, sorry, we'll turn into a therapy session here while we're here as well. Certainly,
Horror is all about therapy, I
yeah,
feel.
certainly when we were younger and we were going out, and I'm talking when you're not in relationships, when you are single people going out in the town, back when people still used to go to nightclubs, there was a thing where if one of your friends was not involved with seriously, but there was someone who was a loose acquaintance and there was oh, you maybe like them. I've seen it happen with people of all genders. The competition between your friends, well, I'm this person, whether you're particularly interested or not, there has definitely been all sorts of sparring matches where we compete with each other to be the one that the object of one of your friends' interests actually likes you instead. And I don't think these things even cross your mind as to, will this upset my friend, who deep down I care about more than, well, I'd like to win in this situation, and I am not skilled enough in either biochemistry or psychology to be able to explain exactly how that works, particularly in a teenager's brain, which is already on fire. But it is just such an interesting dynamic to see played out on screen here.
I always feel like when you're a teenager, I feel like you have like an existential crisis. I feel like, I feel like teenagers get a lot of bad rep, which I understand. because of all the crazy stuff they've done. But if you really see it to understand, you know, your change from childhood, from that innocent childhood to technically adulthood, like that changes fast.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know how to deal with it. There wasn't like a middle slow transition into it. It was like, or at least for me, like, and we're going a bit personal here, but I think for me, like I didn't know about, you know, women and menstruation until it happened. And it freaked me out. And I was like, what the heck is this? No one told me. Nothing was, it was just there and you had to deal with it. So of course you're going through all these changes and trying to understand what it means to grow up and be an adult. And then like a week ago you were playing with dolls and playing with your cars, and then now you have to prepare for adult life and all these changes, and you're like, what? I didn't sign up for this. You know what I mean? So I think because of the quick change, and obviously now in the horror we have the menstruation horror genre, you know, and how that, you know, affects everything. So it's kind of that transition. I feel that that's kind of a shock. So I don't blame them for having their moments.
there's some wildness to it, but before this piece, we've really dived in on this relationship with Richard, so Trisha's husband, this affair that happens with him. She does meet someone else, a man by the name of Wayne, a teacher at the local university. This exchange is wild. This is grade A flirting. It goes from she attracts him with those magic eyes of hers, and he goes over. Poor lady he's talking to
Yeah, just leaves it there.
absolutely like walks away from mid-sentence, and she is
Was hypnotized.
yeah. She's absolutely true blue though. She takes his disappearance to the police and everything. The loyalty award from this movie goes to this unnamed woman in the university quad
Yeah.
that looks for this missing teacher. But it goes from Wayne kind of having in several occasions, his arc of this is going from such a dominant force, this overtly single, sort of large, physically imposing, but very intellectual guy as well, goes over from his place of confidence, oh, hey, I got a cabin in the woods, to the directness that Elaine is able to drive. Like, oh, do you ever take your wife up there? Oh, no, I haven't got one. Do you ever take women up there? Sometimes, yeah. Do you want to take one up there right now? Sure. Takes them a long time to drive there. It's a long way off.
To the point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it goes from, I mean, the great scene, this is the first sort of love and seduction scene we have in this film. So they go from, again, this very dominant part where he, you know, wants to have sex in the car, to her giving him some of the potion that she has in her hip flask.
Yeah.
And then her really taking control of that situation. Like, no, come inside, sit there, I'm going to start making the dinner. Now, the bit when then, you know, when she does, when he realizes and says, I feel really funny. So, oh, yeah, there's hallucinogenic drugs in this. And then sort of strips for him and invites him to the bedroom. Her control in that situation really sort of escalates, and we see it. We see the seesaw kind of shift from one way to the other. And then ultimately, the following morning, when he feels completely out of control, and spoilers once again, he is dying of poison accidentally, but he is kind of desperate and clingy from this very sort of dominant persona to begin with to a real sort of meek and needy kind of character in the end. And it makes her lose interest in him, right? After this sort of mind-blowing lovemaking scene they've had before, then she's sitting out punching a dart in the living room going, what a pussy.
Yeah, I love that scene. She's like, no one cuddled me when I was going through a shit time.
Yeah, and what did you make of this scene? Don't rely on my one-sided analysis.
No, that scene, the first time I watched it was insane. I was like, whoa, because they used this filter on the camera it looks like
the spectrum coming off.
the spectrum of like a rainbow color, not like kaleidoscope, but like, that was in post-production. That was
all in
a
camera.
filtered lens on camera. I thought that it was like, it happened quick. Like they were just having dinner and then suddenly it hits him. And that's when she just gets up and takes her coat off and just starts stripping. And she's like, can I get comfortable? Like 1, 2, 3, fast. Damn. Like I was in shock and I was like, whoa, okay. And then obviously when he starts getting sick, I was like, oh my God, she's killing him, like with whatever she gave him, whatever spell she did. Cause he just started like getting gray and like crying. And she was like very motherly as well. She was like, oh, what do you need, baby? Like, I'll cook for you and I'll do this and this and this. And then once he started getting more and more emotional, she was like, oh God, like this isn't a man anymore. Like this is a baby, a child. And I think she wanted that like male, like masculine energy. And then once he started going a bit down, she was like,
she wanted the energy that we saw from him when he first turned
yeah,
us on
exactly,
the scene, right?
which is the first thing that she kind of captured from him. And then it kind of flipped and completely like 180 and went into the change. Yeah, but I don't think it was intentional. I think she just thought that he was just having like a really shitty day.
Yeah, he was just getting a bit, just getting a little bit needy.
Yeah, because after they have sex, he's like, I've never like felt this way for a woman before, and like all this stuff, and just crying. And that's when he was crying and just smoking a cigarette. You can hear him like sobbing in the room, and then she's smoking her cigarette, like, oh God. But then the next day she's making him breakfast and like checking up on him, like, are you okay? So she was very happy to be in service of him as well, until he wakes up and he's dead.
Wake up dead in the morning. We've all had nights like that as well. Someone says, have one more go on this hip flask, and before you know it, dead.
Yeah, but it was really funny because, even in this kind of car scene, she's like, oh, just drink it. And he's like, what is in this? And she's like, oh, some berries, some like, I don't know, what was it, vodka, and then some hallucinogenic herbs. Like, he's like, hallucinogenic herbs? And he's like, whoa! And then he just kept going.
Yeah, he's well into it at first. It just,
he was into the whole thing. He was like, okay, I'll drink whatever you put in this because I completely trust you. He's the whole thing.
He's not follow those ads. He's let good times turn bad, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was just going with the flow that whole evening.
Yeah. Thankfully, one of his old students does eventually get the police to check up on him. After he has passed away, Elaine sort of buries him in the garden. She performs a ritual that uses a witch bottle that contains her urine and a used tampon. I liked her commentary about how lots of men don't know what a tampon looks like, let alone a used one. I will say, for all the things I will not criticize Elaine for, she's had a traumatic experience. She is desperate for a sense of connection and love. Forensically, not the smartest. She does mean if you're planning not to be caught for killing this man.
That's true. I think she forgot about the
She also thinks she lives in the 60s, not in the modern era.
Yeah, 100%. I think she's more focused on the ritual itself than the actual, doing a proper body disposal. Yeah. It's all for the aesthetic. It's all for the purpose of the vibe of the spell.
In many ways, she is breaking stereotypes left, right, and center, because unlike a lot of other women of her age and otherwise general demographics, not massively into true crime. If she was, she'd known all of this stuff. Absolutely.
Exactly. 100%. Hey, she was trying to be, Mother Earth in what she was doing. Like, you could see the ritual she performed, like with flowers on the bottle and, very earthy. I felt it was very female, very earthy ritual.
Yeah, and she gives him a nice burial, which shows there is no malice behind what's done. It was a unintended.
She did roll him out in like a barrel.
Yeah.
Just like that.
It's just practical. He's heavier. She needs to be able to move him.
Yeah.
And she does stop for a lovely bath at his like
Yeah.
cabin as well. Makes use of the facilities. You know what it's like when you've stayed somewhere and checkout's not till 12. You make every moment count.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after this scene, this is where we see Trish going away and she seduces Richard when she invites him round for dinner. I don't know if this is always the intention or it's just something that happens after they get talking. I don't know whether she intended to seduce him when he came round or if it's just
Well, if you see the scene when they're in the tea room and he surprises Trish,
he has a
and you
good
can
stare, doesn't
see
he?
and gives him a good stare, and he's immediately like hooked. So I think it probably was intentional, because like I mean they've been friends for how long, and when she's away invites her husband over for dinner. I don't know. That's a bit weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm afraid you're not getting off this one, Elaine.
No, she knew
Um,
exactly what she was doing, I
and
feel.
to be fair, she does steer the conversation in that way. Very, very. I mean, I do believe that men and women can be friends. I would start to have my doubts that I was in one of those situations if a woman I was having dinner with said, "So, what turns you on?" I would probably go, taking a step back there, not tell her flying, actually, solid, having a bit of a fly.
Yeah, I mean that's more after a few other
Yeah.
meetings, and then you can start.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I'm probably that person. I ask everyone that question.
Yeah. What turns you on? And then how
Turns you
often do you get the answer? Flying.
Yes. Take off the clothes. I don't even need your answer.
Yeah, just taking my tie off there while I talk about some flying
Yeah.
now.
Tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, so they have but she does stop seeing him after he starts getting overly emotional as well. He doesn't die of poison. I mean, this comes between multiple scenes, but basically after their encounter, even when Trish comes back, basically Richard succumbs to like a deep depression because
Yeah.
he's now obsessed with Elaine and ultimately ends up taking his own life, right? Which
Mhm.
and we've seen in the relationship and we see Trish come to many times sort of starting to think maybe I should be, maybe, she always says like, oh, if I gave Richard sex every time he wanted it, then I'd be worn out.
Correct.
She starts to like doubt herself, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he is kind of morose and sad. Maybe I should be doing X, Y, and Z, but he kind of loses all interest in his wife because he's pining away for Elaine, right?
100%. It's again going back to tea room when she says you have to. What does Elaine say? Like you have to fulfill a, a men's fantasy. You have to be the fantasy um, to get a guy. And I think obviously with what happens with Richard and she finds out Elaine, that whole scene when she sat in front of the vanity and grabs the wigs and starts putting on a wig, it's so it's so many things happening at once because you have her completely wanting to change herself. It could also be something where she feels empowered and maybe changing herself could be something for the positive, but it could also be that because she could potentially enter this new change, maybe that means completely wiping herself away from who she was. So it's a sort of mix of like, this could be empowering, but this could also be really sad because she's um, like leaving that part of herself away. And that's kind of how I saw it. I was like, this felt so like it hit close to home. And I'm sure for a lot of women who've probably been in a situation where they feel like they have to change in order to not lose, their partner or want to have a partner in their life, needing to completely transform yourself
That's
into
what they are. Even when,
this fallacy
yeah,
that isn't real. Like it's not something that it's all fake, essentially. Um, and I think beauty and the the beauty ideals, especially in the vintage world. And I think that's why that was so impactful, and why Anna Biller did it so beautifully, was about glamour. And glamour in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, everything was so meticulously done to look perfect, like the glow of the skin, the chiseled jaw, the eyebrows, the fake lashes, like all these things that these actresses had to do to look completely stunning head to toe. Like, it wasn't easy. Believe me, doing vintage hair it takes like a long time, maybe 2
Eternity.
days. 2 days to even do. Professionals will probably do it quicker. But like, from putting on the lashes to making your skin look a certain way, and then, you know, for the body you have the corsets, you have the bustier bras, you have the stockings, like all these different things to look completely, I guess, perfect, if you want to use that word, even though perfection doesn't exist. Everything is a fallacy, essentially. In the pinup models of the time, with like the gorgeous, and they're like posing, it's curated, it's made. You know, all these actresses were made. They were born. Marilyn, like, she did not look like the Marilyn that we thought Norma Jean looked like. Like, she was completely transformed into this character, into this persona. And that's what everyone was attracted to. That like fantasy, that dream of the female form, of the female beauty. And Anna Biller said, I think in an interview, like, what happens to us when we take off the glamour? You know, when all of that's stripped away, how will we be perceived? How will we be treated and taken if we take it all off and we just completely strip it? Like, what happens then? And I think that's why when she chose that time period to do, I was like, well, it's so true, because everything's just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Again, with the performance.
Yeah, I mean, what a pairing! Maybe, you know, when we're talking film festival time, maybe we pair a film like this where a very different dynamic of the power and the other person suffering through performative sort of beauty rituals.
I mean,
Watch something
the
like The Ugly
best way to think
Stepsister.
about it is the substance.
The substance. You got me a triple bill here. Let's go period wise. We'll start sort of medieval. We'll do Ugly Stepsister and everything that comes through that. Then we go to the pretend 60s, aka 2016, the and the Love Witch, and then we finish with the modern technologies of injectable beauty and the substance. My goodness, everybody, there's your further reading.
100%. That film, like, it made me sad. I think that's kind of what I took from, like, when I saw the substance, and
Yeah, cripplingly sad.
it made me sad because it was so personal. It felt like I don't know if they were attacking me, but I felt like, I was like, damn, this hurts. And I felt so sad. And same thing with the scene with God, I keep forgetting her name.
Trish.
Trish. That's the same effect it had to me, if you think about it. Sorry, spoiler alert for the substance. You know, when the creature is in the vanity.
Yeah. Combing her hair.
The exact same scene. Exact same thing. If you really think about it, parallel, back to back, it's that transformation. It's that, you know, with, at least with the substance and the creature, it's like, I finally feel pretty. And with this one, it's like, I need to change myself. So it's like a mirror in a way. Yeah, sad.
Perfect. Yeah, there is so much to go through with this, and like it's all these and we get what I like about this, and we hear from Elaine. Certainly, we get her internal monologue. We get her thoughts that she's thinking of, you know, and we have at this point the flashbacks to her time with her husband and the derogatory comments he had about her appearance and her homekeeping habits and all the things that led their relationship to fall apart. There are two more relationships I wanted to discover. So as we go through this, we see her relationship with the coven that she is part of. They appear at various scenes, sort of around, sometimes performing their rituals in flashback. Sometimes she's still in touch with them, and they're all still in California. I believe most of the film happens in California. California massive, so you can, move a city and it's as big as moving this entire country. But I'm really interested in the dynamics they have here. So they have taught Elaine and lots of other people we meet as sort of inductees into this coven to harness this love magic that she has mastered, that they can fascinate people, that they can get the attention that they want, and they can do
And
these
especially
love
sex
spells.
magic, which they
Yeah.
talk about.
What I was really interested in, I wanted your take on here, is there are a couple of leaders of the coven. There is a female lead who, in various scenes, performs the role of like this goddess of love, and she is called out in one of the ritual scenes as like an Isis, an Aphrodite character, and she represents I guess the ideal of love and sexuality there. There is also, though, for such a feminist facing movement and a character it's a mixed gender group in this coven that she's a part of, we'll say, very equal approaches to nudity. We get plenty of male full frontal on
Yeah.
this one. Former guest Alice Taylor Matthews would approve. That's usually her rule for a film she will come on and talk to us about. So Hollow Man next. But the kind of the at least spoken sort of leader and guru character we have in this is like a male witch, warlock, whatever you want to label it. And I was interested in the dynamic that we have there with Elaine as well. My reading of this, looking at what we've seen from cults in the real world and so on. Not that witchcraft is a cult, but I'm saying how this is being created. But we've seen examples in the real world with people starting religious movements or subcultural movements, which in some cases can enable men, in some cases, to have sex with multiple partners in ways they find attractive, but otherwise they would never be able to achieve. And there's one particular scene in a bar when greeting Elaine, he has like this over sort of really performative bit where he kisses her on several spots in her body, and when he goes to kiss her lips, she kind of turns away there. Now, my reading of that was she a little bit uncomfortable with this guy's advances as someone who she didn't find physically appealing versus the people that she did want to connect with? Am I reading into this too much? Have I gone down another rabbit hole here?
No, I mean, what I found interesting with that scene was that the first thing he kisses is her belly.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thought that came to my mind is like, well, as women, we get pregnant and we have babies. So we're a baby factory, basically. So it felt like, oh, I'm sort of like showing my love to this being that makes life, essentially. That was like the first thing I thought. And then obviously when he like kisses her neck and then turns out, I feel like like for me, it felt like I think like she's sort of like used to it and like doesn't really care or like, because I feel like she knows that she's good looking. She knows that she's attractive and that men walk her, because there's even a scene where she's walking down the street going to the shop, the witch shop, to sell her stuff, and like all the men are like
People are they're rubbernecking.
Yeah, because that's very, so I feel like she's used to the male attention, but it's not the one she wants. So it's kind of like because it's part of her coven and he's like the leader, she's like, I guess she has to take it because he's the leader of the coven, but like not that she wants to or cares. So I think it was like, yeah, I'll let you kiss my belly, let you kiss my neck, and like I'm just gonna, yeah, you done? Okay, cool. That's how it felt for me.
Yeah, when I was watching, I was like, oh no, maybe I am besmirching this name,
Because
the
if
name
she
of this
really
feminist ally.
rejected him, she would have pushed him away. She would have
Yeah.
done something physical. But it was just the fact that she was calm while he did it. And she was like, yeah, this is how we greet. Yeah, this is,
I think it's one of
But
those things, like there is maybe this implicit when it's not overtly sexual, the amount of, and it's particularly
yeah.
foisted upon women. I apologize to women yet again. But the levels of discomfort you're expected to
Tolerant.
take,
Yeah.
yeah, and to tolerate just because of politeness. And again, I live in a privileged position where I'm allowed to be ugly in peace if I want to. It doesn't matter if I'm having the shittest day of my life. No one's going to comment if I walk down to things. I have fully had to get things from the shops before, and I've gone in directly after a run, like stinking. I've gone in after like a big run, smelling like a ferret and like salty because it's been a hot summer's day and I've sweated so much. And I don't have to think about that twice because, as a rule, no one is going to comment on my appearance. The most physical contact I've ever had to put up with, unwanted on my side, is when you've had a mild disagreement with some dickhead in a pub and they insist on shaking your hand, which is not the worst thing in the world. But
Yeah.
like people, I think as a man, people will accept, oh, he doesn't really want to do hugs, or like I approach that in that kind of way. Whereas sometimes for a lot of women, I understand like hugging or non-sexual but touching close contact is almost sometimes driven as an expectation. I'm watching that on screen. It kind of made me think that like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
I'm being unfair to that poor man who does just want to empower women with sex magic. Maybe I'm being too cynical.
It could always be both ways. I think for him it's both ways. I feel like he is aware of the female power through sexuality, through sensuality, but he also like like those men where they're like high on women, like
Mhm.
they just love like being around women, and they're like it sort of feeds in whatever pleasure he's getting from it, which we don't know. It could be physical, it could also be like psychological. You don't even have to touch the woman, but the fact that they're even there, it gives him a sense of um like a high or a pleasure or power, just being around beautiful women. Like that's why there are women that are, escorts, or like women that are hired for dates. Like it's just the fact that they're there, and the company, and the
Like a
fact that
status and
the
a
status of a beautiful woman, being arm candy, that also makes him feel better. And I don't know if this is for all men, a lot of men, but I've noticed the demeanor change when they have a beautiful woman next to them. Or at least for me, I can feel in a room when I'm around men, I can feel the shift change. Um, I'm not bothered by it necessarily. I don't really. I'm Mexican, so we're very huggy, touchy people. I've learned here in this country that not everyone likes to hug and touch, but I'm the first one that, like, when we meet new friends, I'm like, oh hey, and then like if they accept the hug, they accept it, or I'll just be like, are you a hugger? Are you okay to hug? And then once that exchanges, then yeah. But when it's unsolicited, when we're like having a conversation, um, and then suddenly I'll be grabbed, or like out of the blue, I'm like, okay, this is weird. But it's always about intention, and about how comfortable the other person is. It doesn't have to be a man or woman, it could be anyone. But I think you sort of have to read the room.
yeah.
For me, I don't mind. I grab and hug and touch people because I do it with everyone, and I do it with all my friends. Like it's
I think
not
people can tell that
exclusive.
genuine, that
Yeah,
if
yeah,
someone's
yeah.
genuine with it, I mean, I'm not particularly a huggy person, but I know if someone genuinely is, then it doesn't bother me. Whereas if it's awkward it's like singing, I guess. If you sing and you feel awkward about it, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, right? But if you see someone, they could be singing. We used to teach, and that's what people's like. If you're singing a song to the kids and teaching them English, and you're singing
Yeah.
this song, and you feel uncomfortable about it, then they won't enjoy it. But if you just get into it and say, you know what, this looks a bit silly, then they. And I feel the same with hugs. If the person doesn't really know, like, if it's not what they're like character wise, and it's not like, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
I can sense this wrong. It's like dogs know when you're afraid.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, but for me, it's like I usually just ask people, but I do tell them I'm genuinely like this and have been my whole life. Like I hug people, like with my friends, I, grab them, touch them, because it's just the way of us showing like that sort of friendliness and that care. It has no intention over that, and it's not exclusive to anyone. It's like everyone gets it. If you don't like it, just tell me. Um, but with men, again, I'm gonna go now. Not all men. Just like you're saying sorry to women, I'm saying not all men. um, a lot of the times there's an ulterior motive and intention on how you touch someone. I know I've dealt with older men who were having a conversation, and suddenly I'll feel him like, oh, this is nice, and like he'll do it like touching my clothes, like especially in the vintage world. You meet other vintage people, and usually the interaction are nice, but they do get one or two weirdos that will be like, oh wow, you look, that's the way women should dress, and then they'll be like, okay, turn around, like let's see the whole thing, and they'll like, and you can just feel like it's just weird the way they say it and they interact with it, and the fact that they touch you because they're touching the clothes, but obviously it's like
They're kind of on you at the time.
they're kind of on you, like, oh, and they're like up in your face and like, oh, let's see this, but you can just feel that it's there's an ulterior motive to that. It's not just them admiring your clothes. I feel like the fact that they're up in your face.
Would they be doing it if they were still on the hanger?
Yeah, exactly. Usually when I compliment people, I'm a bit further away, and then I ask them, "Oh, is it okay if I can feel the fabric?" Because I genuinely
I want to feel what that
give a shit about the clothes.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "Yeah, sure." And then I'll just grab a bit of the fabric, but I always ask, I don't automatically just grab them. And I think it's that, not all men, but a lot of men think that they have the right to just come up to you and just grab you, touch you,
Whatever you think is worth
whatever
touching
you
at the time.
feel. And I think, and going back to what you said, I think a lot of women feel a bit uncomfy because of the intention of that action.
And you almost feel like you would be the bad guy if you were to say,
don't touch me, please.
back the fuck up. They'd be like, oh, okay.
It is still a fear to this day. I still hate it when I don't defend myself enough, because I feel like I unconsciously do it, but it's more for a survivor tactic, because you don't know how this person is. You don't know if they're gonna get angry at you or shout at you.
Mm-hmm.
There could be tons of possibilities. So a lot of women just rather play it cool and just chill, let it happen. I mean, I have a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, Sarah, who she's had so many things done to her and like in events that I look at her and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't you do anything? And she's like, I was like by myself, like what was I supposed to do? And I was like, I mean, that's fair. So you have to kind of play it safe because you don't know what the outcome is. So it's more of a survival tactic, to be fair. I mean, I wish I was a bit more punchy and usually I am, but
yeah, I totally get it. Like I can understand how those things happen. It's not right that it happens, but I can understand why it happens with some people. And the same for this one. There's one other relationship I want to touch on before we get to how everything falls together at the end, and that is the person that Elaine meets, who she feels could be the man of her destiny. It's the policeman. Is it Griff officer?
Oh yeah, Griff.
Yes, Griff, Officer Griff Meadows. I also like, and his partner's a nice chap as well. I really like him. I like how I like the little exchange between men who are two good friends. That's what I can pick up from the male perspective here. When he's like, his friend knows what type of sandwich he likes. It's like,
100%.
That's nice. That's nice. You trust each other, and obviously he is presented as he is your man's man. He's popular. The female officer who he speaks to is like, oh, I made the coffee, and it's like, is there anything you're not good at? And he's like, try me sometime. Office flirting.
Exactly, but he looks like, he's like, I don't want to say like a ladies' man, but like, some girls like him, and he's very authoritative and, you know, has all these qualities that make him like a guy, you know, but like not in a bad way, but like just really Elaine's type.
Yeah, he's a policeman. He is like this figure of authority. He's smart. He is a detective, so he knows what's going on. And then in the investigation of the original murder, old Wayne and his body, they are led to Elaine, and obviously he's not made of stone. He finds her very attractive, and he wants to go on a date with her. They have a lovely day of horseback riding. They go to a medieval sort of Renaissance fair. They watch all the lovely sort of hey nonny nonny dancing. They have a great time.
They get dressed up. They dress them up in medieval clothes.
Yeah, they have like a mock wedding. They tie the knot, as it were.
Yeah.
And it feels like from Elaine's side, she feels this is probably the relationship that doesn't end with an accidental poisoning very quickly.
100%.
She feels like, and she's done her tarot card reading, and she's interpreted that maybe this is the person that she has been waiting for. And I love the sort of soliloquy we get here as well, where Elaine finally feels like maybe she's met the person she wants, as they have this moment, that this like great sort of serendipitous date that happens out when they're out horseback riding. And they go to bed together and all these other things, and they're having like this amazing sort of meet cute day. And then we see Griff's his internal monologue talks about, oh sure, like I think he describes it as, I want an heir, so therefore I must have a wife at some point and therefore have children. But I'm not interested in being in love. I don't want, like, because it makes a guy soft. It messes with your head. It isn't what you should be. So again,
yeah,
you talk so much about the female perspective, and rightly so. It's a female-centered movie, but there is some great exploration of the psychology of men and the societal pressures that are put on them as well. For like, oh no, you are a tough guy. You cannot admit that you feel something. But at this time when he's saying these things, he has the biggest smile on his face. He's clearly having an amazing day with this person. Now, whether it's magic or anything genuine, you can debate as much as you like, but it feels like he is definitely feeling and responding to one thing, but with this monotony in his head singing, no, the purpose of me being in a relationship one day is for this, but I will not love anybody because that is for big sissy girls, and I'm not a fan.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And unfortunately I guess this is a thing, like, he is someone who I guess is bound to the thing that he really truly believes in is the thing he pursues in the law and so on. Because at first, when they have this relationship, it is a case of, no, the chief doesn't want us to investigate this anymore. And I think he'd like to look away from which he does, whether he admits it or not, have feelings for her. Things begin to unravel after Richard's death. Trish, in an exchange, I think she's wearing Elaine's ring by mistake, and in going to return it, finds, unfortunately, Elaine, for all of her skills, the forensics was one mistake. The second one was orgy of evidence that you had something to do with having an affair with Richard, and a big letter from him signed about how much he loves, about how much you're into him, and like loads of proof of all of the deaths you've been complicit in there, which causes her to have a confrontation with Trish, who runs away saying that Elaine's going to burn witch style for what she has done. An escalation of this happens in the bar we've seen them at on several occasions, where the inverted commas townspeople scream, burn the witch. Griff, a man of the law, does do like a big bar brawl with these guys and take Elaine out. But at this point, he knows the truth, and I believe he's seen the factual evidence that she's involved in these deaths. So the connection they have from a love perspective, the spell is broken, if you like. He follows what his instinct is, which is to uphold the law and do these things. So you won't let the crowd kill her, unlike traditional mob inverted commas justice. But the relationship they maybe could have had isn't going to happen at that point, which leads to an echo of the painting she's been working on this entire time when she stabs Griff with like a sacrificial sort of ceremonial blade. And then our film ends with her kind of having this vision of them having a wedding, and they ride away on the back of a unicorn. Why not? Bringing us to the end of the film. So quite a tragic ending, right?
Yeah.
How do you interpret this ending here? I know we've rattled through it.
It's, for me, it felt symbolic in the fact that, like, what she wants and the execution was like doomed from the start. I mean, Griff found in her, I guess, his ideal for what he wanted. But like, I think Griff would have been perfect for her. I think the only thing is that she wanted love and he wasn't willing to give it. And then, of course, him finding out that she's a murderer kind of killed whatever sort of dream he had of hopefully having her as his ideal wife, partner. Yeah, it felt like she was. I think the reason why the spells didn't work is I think that her energy was angry. I feel from the start, because if you see, like, she wasn't in witchcraft before in her first marriage. So if you notice, her murderous rage was there before she got into witchcraft.
Comes from that damage from her first relationship that we see
Yeah.
go through, right?
Yeah. So you know, I'm not a big like person in witchcraft. I do know a few friends who are into witchcraft. My mom is into spiritualism, so she likes having crystals and rocks, and she tells me about like law of attraction and all these things. And she says that everything has energy, if you want to see it from those terms. So the spells were, let's say, like screwed from the start because of the energy she was putting into these spells. I think she wanted a result, but the formula wasn't done correctly. And unfortunately, you could say, like, again, I'm trying to think of like a really good example of this. Oh, like your internal monologue with what you say in person, I could really say, wow, your dress is so nice. But in my head, I'm like, that is a freaking ugly dress. So even though I'm saying something different, what I actually feel is another thing. So I feel like she was doing this spell, and while she was doing all these things correctly, I think her vibe projected onto these
Like
spells.
the sort of anger and the
Yeah, the
upset that she still
anger.
has is reflected in what these things actually come out as.
This is a thing that I could also give a good example from to explain it better from the substance. You know, when the main character Demi Moore is like literally like, she's like, I'm giving up. I'm gonna cancel the taking the substance because she's gone way too far. And they say, "Do you want to end this experience?" And that's when she says, "I can't, because she's all I have."
Yeah.
I think that's a good example with Elaine, is like all this performative things that she was doing for a means to an end was actually behind the scenes damaging her. And I think internally she doesn't like that she has to perform. But she does it anyway because this thing, she cannot obtain it
Yeah.
unless she does all these previous steps, which we see in the whole rest of the film. And I think once she had this guy Griff right at the end, and he sees her for what she truly is, in all of her glory, anger and whatnot. He's like, this is like not what I had in my mind of who you are.
Yeah.
So I genuinely think that the more fallacy, the more, like, can I say like bad words on this?
Oh yeah, please do.
Like, I guess there's a phrase that says, the prettier the woman, the crazier she is. I don't know if you've heard that phrase.
No.
Yeah, the prettier the woman, the crazier she is. And I think that, unfortunately, it fucks you up. I'm just gonna say it plain and simple. This fallacy, it's because that's the reason why perfection doesn't exist, because you can't do it. You cannot do it. It doesn't exist. But we're told that we can do it, and it's that constant. You can do it. You can do it, but it's not possible. So you're always like running for that impossible thing, and it drives you crazy. Unfortunately, with Elaine, she had so much already pent up in that energy that getting into witchcraft, it felt like she was transforming into a different person, right? And kind of leaving that past of her behind. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Especially with your energy, like you have to completely take it away. And unfortunately, that anger of like, it was there the whole time, the whole part of the film. That's just the way she was talking about men, the way she was like, I can do this, I can do that, not caring. It clearly, it was going to affect everything else around her.
I think it's a really interesting point there that obviously there's this, we talk about trauma in horror movies like it's the new thing, that so many of the films we see now are so overtly ultimately about trauma. Obviously has played a long game in horror for a very long time, and this is a really interesting one when it comes down to, I think you nailed it with the performative nature of how people can be when they're seeking a new relationship. We've talked about the trauma that is obviously left to her by her past relationships that happened before the film began. But I think for me, the big thing here about it, and we hear it on all sorts of relationship advice as well, unfortunately, Elaine just has magic to accelerate the attraction and the damage that it can cause. But when you are desperate for something and you need something and you feel that you can only get that something from another person because you are fundamentally very unhappy with yourself and unable to be a complete person alone, then arguably, and we've all been there, I'm sure at least many of us have, those relationships that come when you are desperate for something because what you want is the comfort and the validation and the emotional connection, but you are in no position to be stable enough for yourself to for that to actually ultimately in the long term to be a good thing. What, like, this is not necessarily going to fix you, and it feels like this is what Elaine goes into this story with, wanting something external to be fixed when actually lots of the things about it could just be gained from herself if she could see those things, which ties into the substance as well. The
But this is
great
the
tragedy
thing,
of the
people
substance.
don't want to see the ugly bits. This is a thing that has been played into the aesthetic, the aesthetics of yourself, and in general, people don't like to see the ugly bits. And in any way, you could go out. Again, this is why I love horror so much, because for me, it's honest. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It tells you how it is, plain and simple. It doesn't lie to you. That's why people in first conversations, they like to talk about the weather or like really simple things. They don't want to get into the interesting conversations of like the depth of who you are, they get uncomfortable. Like, I can easily make people uncomfortable if they ask me really deep questions, and I'll give them my honest answer and they don't like what they hear. But, I think, again, in general, people do not like the ugly bits. And same in relationships. You're kind of showing just one dimension of yourself at the beginning. A lot of people do that. Not everyone. I mean, I didn't. I laid all my cards on the table the first day when I met my husband, and he proposed to me, and I was like, okay, well, let's go through the list of things that are important to know.
You are signing up for the following.
Yeah, exactly. Because why? And this is the thing. And this is something that I always question every day when I'm with people. Is like, why lie? Or why sugarcoat things? Why only talk about the pretty stuff? There'll always be the good with the bad and the bad with the good, and they can't be without each other. There's no light without darkness. But people only want to focus on the light and the pretty things, like that's why Elaine was trying to look pristine head to toe and being pretty all the time in every single way, to be this sort of perfect thing that people liked and were attracted to, because people like the nice bits. They don't like the ugly bits. And that reflects the same in the substance, but not just in the physical. I'm talking about conversations, topics, of anything you can think of. People will never want to talk about the ugly bits.
You've got those core values as well that people have that build those relationships, especially because in Elaine's example, she goes from meeting someone to them declaring that they love them within moments. Like, you're kind of fast tracking those connections that come over time. Again, we can share a real story here. I had maybe been on a couple of dates with my now wife, and she said, hey, just, we've been seeing each other a little while now. I never want kids. I just need you to know, because that's going to be a problem, then you need to think elsewhere. Because, and it's still to this day now, we've been married for 14 years. Like, we still, even now, we are, in our 40s, and still people will say, do you have any kids? No. Oh, not yet. And that is such a...
We're on the same route, 5 years married in, and I was sort of like, I don't really care, it's not my purpose, and he was like, no. And I was like, that's fine. My life won't end because I won't have kids. So, but we said it pretty much from the start, and same with all the other things. Like, what are your morals? I mean, the first thing I asked him was like, do you respect women? Because I need to know this.
This is going to be important.
I need to know.
Because I'm big into the love witch, and if you don't, my friend, it's going to be a short trip.
To this day, when we meet other couples, my husband and I were so transparent. Like, he knows every single thing. Like, there's no secrets. He knows like the weirdest, darkest parts of my mind and my heart. And whenever we meet couples that like don't know what their blood type is, or they don't know like what they did back before they met them, and we would just look at each other and we're like, wait, how long have you guys been seeing each other? Like, oh, we did it for a few months, and you don't even know his blood type.
Like,
you
come on,
don't
be
even
more
know.
curious.
Yeah, like, what if an emergency happens and he goes to the hospital and he needs a blood transfusion and you don't know what his blood type is? Like, it's stuff like that I feel like you should sort of, I don't know, first date or two, kind of settle it down. Because for me, at least, what's the point in dating if you're just not going to be in a relationship? You might as well just not sort of, I feel like dating leads to relationship and so on and so forth. So if not, why are you wasting my time? If you're not going to be honest about who you are from the first round, like, I don't care. We're not perfect. We have ugly sides. We have pretty sides. I think anyone who strives for a person to be totally perfect and completely like a saint is not good in my books.
Gonna be in for a life of disappointment. So if Elaine and Griff could have chatted to us before they went on that day out.
Well, yeah, because she was selling him a fantasy. He took the bait, and then when he found out that, oh, actually, no, she's not this perfect fantasy in my head and in her head, I'm just gonna dump her. And she was like, oh, well, screw you then.
And in Griff's defense, I think you are okay to go off someone if it's turned out they've done a big load of murders, or
Of course.
involuntary manslaughters, maybe in the eyes of the law.
Of course. Well, maybe it wasn't intentional,
Yeah.
but
You know,
no.
the law is the law. Just
Exactly.
to close out for listeners here, my wife and I have the same blood type, but I won't be telling it to you because you're not going to be cloning an army of atomic supermen with my blood type on my watch. But it's been such an interesting conversation on Love Witch, Sharon. All that remains for us to do before we say goodbye, of course, is it's time to review the film. Now, over here, we review classic school grades, A to F. You can give pluses, you can give minuses, because a star rating is boring. So, what are you rating The Love Witch and why?
Classing it as an A.
An A,
Bias. Because every single part of what makes a film stood out. It wasn't just the actors, it was the production team, it was the direction, it was the script. And I appreciate a film that every single department shines. If you watch a film and the only thing you liked was the actors, then I feel like the film has failed. There has to be every single part of a department that shows their strengths. And I think that was done beautifully. I don't think there's any room that I could have said I would have improved it. I think the message was clear. The aesthetics were beautiful. You could have it in the background if you're doing some of your cleaning, which is always good for a film, I feel. If it looks good enough, you want to have it in the background. It's a good background film. And it's not boring. I don't think. It's very entertaining. And
it's about a movie, doesn't drag.
Exactly. And I think that's the great thing about movies. Not everything has to be serious. I think there could also be just full-on entertainment. And also, it makes you learn something. I love when films teach you something, no matter what it is, but it gives you something to just think about. And I think this one did it beautifully. And it's, of course, an amazing homage to classic vintage films, which to me is like, to have a love letter to like the vintage era of films, to me will always have a number one place.
Great review. I am going a B+ from my side. I probably came into this discussion on a B. I think discussing it with you, Sharon, and Emma's notes as well have elevated it for me. I feel like I understand the film better than when I watched it the other day and all those years ago when I first caught it. But many of the same things you've said, immaculately produced, lovingly crafted, every detail, every shot, every angle, every appearance, every stroke of the makeup brush, every stitch of clothing, like deliberately designed. And such an incredible achievement to have built something that feels so authentically of the period that you wanted to set it in without the advantage of a time machine to going back and doing it. I think it's a wonderful piece of vintage work itself. I will be watching this again. I'll continue to recommend it. I think we've had a lovely deep dive on it today, and I still feel there is such depth to this that you could do a podcast series where you talk about, every single relationship and every single scene of this movie in great depth, and you could go much deeper. I look forward, Sharon, to you running that podcast in the future. Do have us on
hours.
but yeah, really, really well made. Why am I not in A territory? Hard to say. I think just across the whole breadth of all the horror movies in the world, it's not necessarily the subgenre that speaks to me
Of course.
the most. And I think you have to be in the mood for it. If I'm recommending it as a horror film, if you want to come into this and you want your high pace, you want your blood and gore and the action sides of horror, you won't necessarily find that here, but you will find an awful lot to enjoy and an absolutely like mesmerizing piece of cinema upon the screen. And I
feel
think
like
it's
that
worth
sort of
considering.
style of like giallo films, Hammer films, and you like that sort of classic Technicolor look. It's definitely something to have in your repertoire. because then you can talk about it.
For sure. Get it watched, everybody. And I believe it might have taken a screening at Fright Fest back in the day as well. Imagine if we'd been
Good.
there. Yeah. So, Sharon, before I leave you, where can the people online follow you, should you wish them to, and they be so inclined?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, which is where I'm more active, the Glamp Vamp next door. And I also have TikTok, but I'm more active on Instagram. And there you can follow all my love of the horror style, especially in the vintage aesthetic, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, the style behind me. If you like horror, vampires, that sort of pin-up look, the femme fatale style, and of course, seeing a bunch of Addams Family love that I have, you can follow me on there. And if you have any horror recommendations, slid into my DMs because I'm always looking to watch more horror films.
Get them over there. Well, I'm sure everyone should follow you along on Instagram. You do some wonderful work over there. We will hopefully catch you again soon, perhaps at Fright Fest. But we've talked a few movies today that you mentioned that we haven't covered before. Who knows? When it's time for a Corpse Bride episode, maybe you'll be straight back on board with us.
Yes, please.
All that it remains for me to do is, and if you like what we've done over here today, you can join us over on Patreon/Horror Hangout. Chuck us a buck or an amount you would not miss, copying exactly the words of James and Maso there to keep us going and keep the lights on over here. You can get early access to episodes, ad-free feeds, so you're not, forced to listen to all those ads that aren't in our wonderful voices. And just keep us going over there. You can find us on all of your socials. Search Horror Hangout or Horror Hangout Podcast on your Instagrams, your TikToks, your platforms all over the world. If it's got a tag, Ben's probably got one sorted for it. Horrorhangout.co.uk if you want to catch all of those things in one place. Thanks to our old mate Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks for the folks over at Acast and Rusty Quill for their hosting services and having us as part of their network. I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everybody.